Hello, welcome to episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 5th. Hope everyone's having a day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. We've got a lot to get into here today, coming off of the 4th of July holiday. A successful day in New York baseball as the New York Yankees pick up another win, 8-4 over the Baltimore Orioles. The New York Mets pick up a win over the Arizona Diamondbacks, 8-5. That is now 3 straight wins for the New York Mets. They took 2 of 3, obviously, over the weekend against San Francisco. They win again yesterday, so they are now 3-0 in July, and they've won 3 of the last 4. Are the Mets starting to play better baseball? Is this just a stretch of a couple games? We'll get into that later on. We'll also get into the Yankees taking the first 2 games of a big 4-game set against the Orioles. They'll look to win the series today, find a way to win one of the next 2 games, take 3 of 4, and you feel really good about yourself going into the series against the Cubs to wrap up the first half of the season and heading into the All-Star break. The Mets will play Game 2 of a 3-game set today against the Diamondbacks. Kodai Senga will be on the mound for the New York Mets. They'll look to take the series win and go for the sweep tomorrow. And, then after that, the Mets will head out to San Diego, as I mentioned yesterday. And as everybody knows, they'll head out to San Diego for 3. And then that will wrap up the first half of the season for the New York Mets in San Diego. Obviously, the continuation of this 6-game road trip. So we've got a lot to get into today. As we get closer to training camp over the next this week and then into next week, I'm going to be doing top 5 players in the NFL at different positions. So today we're going to take a look at the top 5 quarterbacks. Tomorrow we're going to take a look at the top 5 running backs. Then we'll take a look at top 5 receivers and tight ends. We'll kind of put that into one group. I don't think I'm going to do 2 separate episodes for that. I'll probably put receivers and tight ends into one episode, but we'll see. And then I want to do top 5 offensive line and defensive lines in the NFL, not offensive line, defensive line players. I'm not going to do top 5 guards, top 5 tackles, top 5 centers, because that's just too much. I'll do top 5 offensive lines in football, top 5 defensive lines in football. I'll put my top 5 linebackers, and then we'll get into the secondaries, do my top 5 secondaries in football. So that's safeties and corners. I'm not going to go into top 5 corners and top 5 safeties. I'm just going to do secondaries, team secondaries in football. So we'll take a look at those here because we are 2 weeks away from the New York Jets reporting to training camp. They obviously report a little bit earlier than the other teams because they have the Hall of Fame game on August 3rd, so we'll get into that. A lot of football coming up here in terms of training camp and the excitement coming up for training camp, so we'll get into a little bit of that today, taking a look at the top 5 quarterbacks right now in the NFL. My list, I should say, of top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So we'll start off with that. We'll get to the Yankees and Mets later on as well, both of them, as I mentioned, with 2 big victories. And obviously an exciting matchup tonight for the Yankees and also for the Mets as the Yankees go for the series win. Mets also go for the series win tonight. Yankees, hopefully, the way they're playing, can we sweep Baltimore? All I ask is win one of the next 2, take the series. I went into the series and I said the least, just find a way to split these next 4 games. And now you're looking at it and you feel really good about your chances of winning tonight and maybe even potentially winning again tomorrow. You got Randy Vasquez on the mound tonight. He's been very good. Him and Brito have been very good. So we'll get into that later on as well after we talk a little football. So we'll start off today with some football, with a little bit of NFL talk. It is July 5th, and you're probably thinking to yourself, why are we talking football this early? Well, in 2 weeks, teams start to report. The schedule of the podcast the next couple weeks, we'll get more into that, into next week as well. Will kind of be packed with a bunch of other stuff as well. So I do plan on here really this week and into next week as well, doing some position breakdowns, looking across the NFL, top 5 guys at each position. Obviously, as I mentioned, top 5 offensive lines and top 5 secondaries in football instead of breaking it down because those are just too many different positions and stuff like that. So we'll get into a little bit of that as later on. But we'll start off here kind of with the skill positions. We'll start off on the offensive side of the football. Then here within the next couple of days, we'll get to the defensive side of the football and really break it down heading into training camp as training camp continues to get closer here, really starting within the next 2 weeks. So we'll start today with the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, I usually start my lists at number 5, and I gave this a lot of thought because, you usually start your list coming at number 5 or number 10, and then, or you sometimes, some people go back from number 1, and then they'll go down the list to number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So I'm going to count it down. I'm going to go from number 5 to number 1, even though I think we all know who the obvious choice is at the number 1 spot for top quarterback in the NFL, and arguably will go down as one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. So we kind of know who that's going to be, but I am going to still start at number 5. I gave this one a lot of thought as to whether or not to go from 1 to 5 or 5 to 1, but we'll count it down because I do think there is a lot of debate for 5, 4, and 3. 1 and 2 I think is obvious, but I do think, the spots 5, 4, and 3 are really up for grabs and could definitely change as the year goes on. I think 1 and 2, though, is pretty solidified. So we'll start with the 5th best quarterback in the NFL. Again, top 5 quarterbacks right now in the NFL. Looking at the numbers, what I saw last season going into this year, top 5 quarterbacks right now. Starting it off at number 5, I've got Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. A lot of excitement around him going into this season. Obviously, it didn't end quite, good. It didn't end very good last year. With the whole wild card blown lead in Jacksonville, although a lot of that wasn't him. Most of that was Brandon Staley and the coaching staff and poor coaching down the stretch and just some really just questionable things that they did in that second half after having such a big lead in the first half to then lose that game 31-30. But Justin Herbert's coming off of a very good season. He has gotten better each year in the NFL. He's had 2 of his 3 years. He's had over 30-plus touchdowns. Last year, he had 25. I guess if you want to consider it, last year might have been a slight down year from what he did in 2021, where he threw 38 touchdowns and had over 5,000 yards. But he still had the second most yards he had in a career. He still put up 25 touchdowns. The interceptions took a dip from 15 to 10 this year. Doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. Turned it over a lot in 2021, although he did throw, 38 touchdowns rather. But he had a higher completion percentage. He had the highest completion percentage as he has in his career. So when you really look at the numbers, he's gotten better each and every year. He's got weapons all over the place. You've obviously got Keenan Allen. You've obviously got Austin Eckler. They've got pieces. They've got weapons. The Chargers are a very good team. We all know, I think the only question with the Chargers right now is what is it going to be? How are they going to be with the coach? Is Brandon Staley good enough to take this Chargers team to the next level? Or is the coach the serious problem? And are they not going to be able to get to that next level because of the coach? Obviously, you've got another guy too in Mike Williams, who was a big piece, for them last year, having 895 yards. I believe he led the team because Keenan Allen's been, kind of had some issues with the health and injuries and stuff like that. But Justin Herbert, throughout his first couple years in the league, has really turned into one of the best players, really one of the best quarterbacks in football. Comes in at number 5, 4,739 yards last year. That was second in the NFL. He had 25 touchdowns. That was tied for 8th in the NFL. Obviously, the 10 interceptions. He has a QBR of 58.2, 11th in the NFL last year, and a completion percentage of 68.2. That was 3rd in the NFL. The big thing now with Justin Herbert is, and this is where, when you look at the rest of the list, and maybe why Justin Herbert, number 1, he's only had 3 years, but number 2, the next biggest step for him now is he's gotten to the postseason. Now he's got to take it to the next level, and he's got to step up big time in the postseason. Now, last year's loss, again, as I mentioned, wasn't quite his fault. A lot of it was on Brandon Staley and the coaching in the second half, but still, now you've got to take that next step. You've proved in the regular season you've gotten better each year of your NFL career. You're ready to take that next big step in your 4th year to get a playoff win, to make a run in the playoffs, to be another one of these top-tier AFC contenders in a loaded AFC. So coming in at number 5, Justin Herbert. The next big task for him, if he wants to put his name in within the number 4, number 3, number 2 range, is to have that playoff success, which we will see if he gets that, obviously, coming into this season. So number 5, Justin Herbert. Going over to number 4, we've got Jalen Hurts. Now, I really played with number 4 and number 3 because I was really stuck on what to do at number 4 and 3 because Jalen Hurts had such a good year last year, and I was debating on whether or not to put him at 3, whether or not to put him at 4. Again, as I said, number 1 and 2 to me were obvious. Number 5 was pretty obvious. I know some people could say Lamar Jackson, or you could throw some other names in there, obviously, but I thought number 5 was pretty obvious, Herbert. And again, I coming out of college, I was a huge fan of Herbert coming out of Oregon. A lot of people, there was a couple people out there that doubted him. I always thought he was going to be a very solid quarterback. I was a big believer of him coming out of college. I know, obviously, again, some people didn't believe in him, but he's been great. So, number 4, we got Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts coming off of a career year. Took his team to a Super Bowl. I think that's the biggest thing. Again, when you look at the quarterbacks on this list, there's one that's had legitimate postseason success. That's Patrick Mahomes. I will spoil it. He's number one. But that's how good he's been. Like he's the guy with a legitimate postseason experience. Now, when you look at Jalen Hurts, he's another guy, too, coming out of college. Not many people fully believe. They were questioning, what he could do in the passing game. Yes, he's very good with his legs, but would he be good enough with just his legs? Would he be able to be good enough in the passing game? And he proved that last year. He had a huge season last year, 3,701 passing yards. That was 10th in the NFL. 22 touchdowns. That was 14th in the NFL. He had a QBR of 66.4. That was 4th in the NFL. Completion percentage of 66.5. That was 11th in the NFL. So he was towards the top of the league in many of the major statistical categories. And obviously, as I mentioned, what he can do with his legs is something that's so dominant and not many people talk about as well. 700, we do talk about it, but something that goes under the radar a lot of times with quarterbacks. He had 760 rushing yards last year and 13 rushing touchdowns. So not only can he do it through the air, he can do it with his legs. And that was something that we noticed in the postseason last year of why teams had such a tough time against him and the Eagles in general. Obviously, Kansas City took care of business against them in the Super Bowl, but when you looked at the teams like San Francisco where they really struggled to stop him, and again, they had the whole quarterback fiasco where Purdy goes down, and they had to put Josh Johnson out there, and then he goes down, and you got Christian McCaffrey running Wildcat. It was a disaster for the Niners, but still, their defense couldn't stop them. The Giants couldn't stop the Eagles' offense either. So, because Jalen Hurts is so versatile, he can run, he can pass. He's very good out of the pocket. He's got a lot of speed. He's all around. He's got weapons. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. He's got pieces around him. Jalen Hurts, there's a good chance, again, similar to a Justin Herbert, he can get within that conversation of number 2, number 3 easily this year, especially with last season being his big season and getting to the Super Bowl already. And you've seen the steady progress each year. The passing yards has increased each season. The completion percentage has increased each season. The completions have increased. The touchdowns have increased. The interceptions, last year he threw 9. This past season he threw 6. Very low when it comes to the turnovers. Jalen Hurts does a lot of very good things. So Jalen Hurts at number 4. Now, number 3, again, I was debate all night. Last night when I was getting ready and I was getting the notes ready, and even today when I was writing down all the numbers and getting ready for the show, I kept thinking to myself, do I put Josh Allen at 4? Do I put Jalen Hurts at 3? Josh Allen 4? What do I do? This was my toughest one. And I'll be honest with you, I could really see this going either way. I really could. I could sit here right now and make the argument that Jalen Hurts is number 3. And my argument would be his turnovers are a big deal in terms of he doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. And he's gotten better each year. Josh Allen, on the other hand, the last 2 seasons, he's thrown 29 interceptions. That's a big issue, especially some of the red zone turnovers he's had. So that's where I think the difference between Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen is. If you want to debate that Jalen Hurts is better than Josh Allen, well, Josh Allen's got a serious turnover problem. But when you look at the other numbers, Josh Allen overall is better. He's got the better QBR. He's got the better, not really. He doesn't have the better completion percentage, but he got a better QBR. He's got more touchdowns. He's got more yards. So when you look at the overall numbers, Josh Allen on a whole body of work put up better numbers than Jalen Hurts. But the biggest thing is the interception. So I could see this going anyway, but I did put Josh Allen at number 3. He had 4,283 yards last year. That was 7th in the NFL. He had 35 touchdowns. That was tied for 2nd in the NFL, only behind Patrick Mahomes. He was tied with Burrow at 35. He had a 71.4 QBR. That was 2nd in the NFL, only behind Patrick Mahomes. And he had a completion percentage of 63.3. That was 23rd. Something that Josh Allen has an issue with. And the last year, the last 2 seasons, he got back to that, was missing guys and struggling a little bit when it came to completion percentage. His first 2 years of his career, his completion percentage was under 60%. He got it all the way up to 69.2 in 2020. Last 2 years, it's been 63.3. So it's dropped a good 6%, which isn't great. And the turnovers have taken a massive increase the last 2 years. He's thrown 29 interceptions, especially in the red zone. The turnovers are a serious issue with Josh Allen. He's got a turnover problem. And a big reason why the Bills haven't been able to get across to the finish line has been because of the turnovers, has been because of some of the missed throws, has been some of the struggles there. But a big reason why they've gone to the postseason, a big reason why they've been winners of the AFC East over the last couple seasons since Brady left is also because of Josh Allen. I will always say this as well. Josh Allen's number 3 to me. And as much as you can make the argument for Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen, and I would definitely listen to that argument because you can sure make the argument. It's a fair argument to make. Josh Allen, at the end of the day, when you look at him at 6'5", 237 pounds, he is still, in my opinion, probably the most physically imposing quarterback in the NFL. In terms of his size, in terms of his speed at 6'5", 230 plus. And what he can do when he gets into the open field, what he can do when he gets out of the pocket. He's a tough guy to bring down. He's physical. He brings a lot of attributes. He has a lot of attributes, I should say, to his game that are up there in the top of the league that separates him from many other quarterbacks. So although he has the turnover problem, I do think Josh Allen is probably the most physically imposing quarterback in terms of his size and what he does to defenders. I mean, this is a guy that runs through guys at times like he's a running back. That's how strong and physical this guy is. So Josh Allen at number 3. He had 35 touchdowns last year. 27 years old, in the prime of his career. He's got weapons all over the place. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. The Bills are going to be in the conversation again. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers entering a division as a Jet fan. It's going to be tougher for them. It's going to be a lot of fun watching those two games, especially opening night at MetLife Stadium. Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen will face off week 1. But I think there is this type of notion that is going around in the NFL right now that people think Josh Allen is not good anymore. People think Josh Allen isn't the same player he once was. I don't buy that. My biggest thing with Josh Allen is he's got a turnover problem. And that's the biggest thing. The turnovers are a serious issue. You want to sit here and tell me that the turnovers, if they continue this way, they can derail him? I would definitely agree. Like, if he throws 16 interceptions again this year, and those, again, a lot of them come in the red zone and under 2 minutes, where I believe the last 3 seasons he's got like the most turnovers under 2 minutes in games, or it's like a certain stat like that. If he continues that up, yeah, it's going to hurt him. It's going to damage him. He's got to stop that. And I think that's what separates him and Joe Burrow, who I've got coming in at number 2. Is Josh Allen's got the turnover issues, especially in the red zone. Joe Burrow, although he threw 12 picks last year, it's not 29 picks in the last 2 seasons. So that's what separates Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, is the turnovers. But again, most physically imposing quarterback, it's Josh Allen. Turnovers are the issue. He cleans those up. He's probably number 2. Coming at number 2, though, I got Joe Burrow. 4,475 yards last year. That was 5th in the NFL. He was obviously tied with Josh Allen in 2nd with 35 touchdowns. He was 10th in the NFL last year in QBR, 58.7. He had a 68.3 completion percentage, which is 2nd in the NFL. He completed passes last year at an extremely high rate, just a tick below 70%. I don't think many people talked about that when it came to Joe Burrow and what he was able to do last year. But again, this is another guy, too, that, his career got off to a really rough start where he tore his ACL, got tackled by Chase Young. Obviously got tackled by Chase Young, tore his ACL against the Redskins, and it was just, it was devastating for him. It was devastating for the NFL, number 1 overall pick. His first year, he was having a good season, but the Bengals were struggling, stuff like that. And then you go into 2021, he gets to the Super Bowl. Last year, again, gets to the AFC Championship game. This guy's already had a lot of playoff success. The only things left for him to do is to win a Super Bowl, which I'm sure he'll be back to a Super Bowl eventually. There's a chance he's back there this year. I mean, as long as Joe Burrow is playing like he is, the Bengals are going to be in the conversation. I find it funny that when you look at this list, 4 of the top 5 guys are AFC. That just shows you how dominant the AFC is. And we're not even talking about names about Lamar Jackson, and we're not even mentioning Aaron Rodgers and Trevor Lawrence's. Like, that's how good the AFC is right now with all these quarterbacks. But back to Burrow, again, as long as he's playing at this high level, Bengals are going to be in the conversation every year. He's gotten better each season. He's coming off of a career year in which he threw 35 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That's the most touchdowns he's thrown in his career. A guy that completes the ball at an extremely high rate. I mean, he completion percentage, he had a 70.4 a year ago. This past season, 68.3. He's a career completion percentage of 68.2 through 42 games. I think that's something that's very special. Again, it separates him and Josh Allen. Josh Allen at times he's missed guys. He misses open guys a lot. Burrow connects. I mean, some of these throws that Burrow makes are just ridiculous. To Jamar Chase, to T. Higgins, to all those guys, Tyler Boyd, to all the pieces they've got over there, a ton of weapons, Mixon obviously coming out of the backfield. So Burrow's got a ton of pieces around him. Again, I think what separates him and Josh Allen, what separates Burrow over Josh Allen, it's a couple things. Mainly the turnovers, but it's also Josh Allen the postseason has not gone the Bills' way. Like, last year, Joe Burrow went into Buffalo, and this is where I don't think, I think there's an argument to make maybe for some of these other spots on this list. Maybe you want to say guys higher than, or whatever. Top 10, again, it's all debate. But I don't really think there's much of an argument right now that Josh Allen is better than Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow went into Buffalo, snowy Buffalo, and outdueled Josh Allen, in his home building. I don't really think he was the better player. He outdueled Josh Allen last year. Josh Allen has been in the league for this is his 6th season. He has yet to been to a Super Bowl. Burrow's already been to a Super Bowl. Burrow's already been able to take down Kansas City and get to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen has not been able to do that. So that's what to me separates the playoff success early in his career. Doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much, and went into Josh Allen's building last year and took him down. Now, Josh Allen cleans up the turnovers and has some playoff success, then you can have that conversation. But as of right now, I think it's pretty clear Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the NFL, coming in behind Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, I think, is the unanimous number one. Look, maybe at the beginning of last season, I thought there might have been a debate to be had to say maybe Joe Burrow is creeping up on number one Patrick Mahomes. But again, after last year where everybody doubted Patrick Mahomes and said, oh, they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. They only have Travis Kelce. The AFC is only getting stronger. Mahomes' days of dominating, it's going to be rough. That wasn't true. Went in and beat Burrow in Arrowhead and went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl against Jalen Hurts, who nobody could take down in the first 2 rounds of the postseason in the NFC Divisional and NFC Championship round. So Mahomes is number one. And again, this is a guy that if he keeps this up, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I mean, he might be the most talented quarterback of all time. Brady will be the greatest winner, but there's a good chance when all's said and done in Mahomes' career, he might be the most talented quarterback we'll ever see. In terms of the throws he makes, his athleticism. I mean, the throws this guy makes, sidearm, not looking, chucks it downfield, dimes. It's unbelievable. I don't have to sit here and give you a whole list of things that Patrick Mahomes can do. We all know what he's capable of. He had 5,250 yards last year. That was first in the NFL. He had 41 touchdowns. That was first in the NFL. 12 picks. He had a QBR of 77.6. That was first in the NFL. He had a completion percentage of 67.1. That was 7th in the NFL. It was his second year in his career that he's had over 5,000 yards. Second season in his career, they had over 40-plus touchdowns. I mean, what this guy does is on a week-in and week-out basis is just insane, and everybody doubted him without Tyreek Hill, and he said, you know what? I can do it without Tyreek Hill, and he did. First year without him to Travis Kelce and company. Got the job done. Just to give you some other numbers on Mahomes, he has played 5 seasons for the Chiefs. He has thrown for 18,991 yards. 151 touchdowns. He was selected to play in 2 Pro Bowls. He has won 1 Offensive Player of the Year, an MVP, a Super Bowl MVP, and a championship. So, again, 2-time Super Bowl. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's made it to 3. He has a passer rating of 105.7, 3,381 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions in 11 games in the playoffs in his career. I mean, what this guy does week in and week out and what he does in the postseason is what separates him from the rest of the league. It's Mahomes' number one. And again, the winning is the biggest thing. Out of this list, he's the only one to win a Super Bowl. I think that just in itself separates him from everybody else. So my top 5 is Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Rounding it out in number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Hit me up on Twitter at Bubbs52 and in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on the list? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you agree, disagree? Give me your list down below. Do you agree with my list? What would you change? I think maybe what most people maybe disagree with is maybe Jalen Hurts in front of Josh Allen seems to probably be what most people think should be changed. Is Jalen Hurts should be 3, Josh Allen is 4. And I can understand that. The only reason I'm putting Josh Allen in front of him is you look at the overall numbers last year, he had better numbers than Hurts. Like most of the numbers, Josh Allen was better. He also had more rushing yards. Sure, Hurts has already been to a Super Bowl. Allen hasn't. Hurts, you can make a strong argument, might be a better runner than Allen. Okay, fine. He had 13 rushing touchdowns. I think that was more than Allen. So you can maybe make an argument there in terms of, but again, like I just think, I don't know. I just think Allen a little bit more proven so far in the league than Hurts has been. Like last year was really Hurts' big blow-up year. Allen's had, 3-4 really good seasons. So I think that's just a little bit more proven than Hurts. But that's really maybe what separates. It's close. I mean, there's a good chance Hurts goes and makes another Super Bowl this year and Allen's out in the first round. I think you have to, that the conversation's got to be there is Hurts is in front of him. It does. And again, that's the biggest thing with Josh Allen. And I'm not trying, this wasn't a pick on Josh Allen episode. But I think his name on this list is being brought up so much because there's a lot of talk around Josh Allen in terms of where he is amongst quarterbacks. Like, is he up there? Is he better than Burrow? I don't think so. Some people do. Is he as low as number 4? Is he top 3? Is he top 2? Like, is he right up against Mahomes? I don't think he is. Some people sit there and make an argument that, Allen's not far off from Mahomes, but he's elite. He is elite. Like, I look at there's probably 4 elite quarterbacks. It's probably Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and Hurts. I don't know if I consider Herbert elite yet. He's very good. He's getting better. Give me some playoff success, more playoff experience for Herbert, and then you could probably throw him in that elite category, but the elite category might only be 3-4 names right now out of everybody in the NFL. I mean, you can make an argument that maybe Jalen Hurts quite isn't elite yet. Maybe he's got to do it again for another 2-3 seasons in order for him to be elite. You can make that argument. But, again, that's why we make this list, and I want to hear your thoughts as well. Herbert, number 5. Hurts, number 4. Allen, number 3. Burrow, number 2. The obvious one is Patrick Mahomes at number 1. If you think Burrow is better than Mahomes, I would like to hear your argument. If you think Allen's better than Mahomes, I would like to hear your argument. Now, if you're a Bengals or Bills fan, I'd understand why you're saying that because you're probably biased. But if you're just or you're just a football fan or you're not a Chiefs or Bills or Bengals fan and you truly don't think Mahomes is the number 1, let me hear it. I don't agree. Mahomes, I think, is clearly 1. I really don't understand why anybody would think the otherwise, but let me hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And tomorrow we'll do top 5 running backs in the NFL, which should be another fun list as well. Friday we'll do top 5 receivers, and I also plan on doing tight ends. I'll just do top 5 receivers, top 5 tight ends in the NFL on Friday. All right, so now I move on to a little bit of baseball here to close things out. Excellent 4th of July yesterday. You had all the barbecues, all the food, all that good stuff, fireworks. Raining a little bit, in the tri-state area, but all in all was a very good day and a very successful day for Yankees baseball and a very successful day for the New York Mets as both teams get the win. Yankees win 8-4. Mets get the job done 8-5, despite maybe the little bit of a bullpen scare late in that game in the 9th inning where the Diamondbacks put up a run. David Robertson had to come on to clean up Drew Smith's mess and got an out after walking a guy and then letting a guy on base with a hit. Got the job done, got the save. Mets got the job done. They won 8-5. Scherzer wasn't great, but they won the game. He allowed 3 homers, but they found a way. And they found a way with their offense, getting 8 runs on 8 hits. A big 4th inning, followed up by another 7th inning to tack on some more runs. And the Mets figured out a way to get a win, and that's now 3 straight wins for the New York Mets, who really struggled in June. We all called it the June swoon for the New York Mets, where they really struggled. And, big reason why they're fourth in the NL East at 18 games back and still 7 games under 500 was because of June. They went 8-8 or what, 8-8, was it 7-19 or whatever it was in June. But they now start to July and they're 3-0. They finished off June with a loss to the Giants. They won on July 1st, which was Saturday. They won on July 2nd, which was Sunday. And then they won yesterday on July 4th. So they're 3-0 in July. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. They go for the series win today against a Diamondbacks team that's first in the National League West and 14 games up on 500. And again, we talked about this with the Mets. If there is a time for the New York Mets to get going, it's got to be before the All-Star break. I think, again, it's really over these next couple weeks, but it's especially before the All-Star break. If you can find a way to get within, there's 7 games under 500 right now. If you can find a way to get within 5 games or 4 games under 500 over these next 5 games, which would mean you'd have to go, 4-1 or 3-2, whatever it is, go into the All-Star break, let's say 32-48. Or 42-48. That would be 6 games under 500. It's not great. 43-47. If they go 4-1 in their next 5 games, which is asking for a lot. Realistically, 3-2 in their last 5 games, which would be 42-48 because it'd be 3-2. You would be 6 games under 500. I don't know where they would stand against the Cubs. I mean, they might jump the Cubs. They might be within 6, 5.5, 5 games of a wild card spot. If you can find a way to get within 5 games of a wild card spot by the All-Star break, you give yourself, again, I don't think the Mets are going to make the playoffs. I don't. I said their season was over 2 weeks ago. I might be wrong. I'll admit if I'm wrong. I still don't think they're going to come back. But if you can find a way to win 3 of these next 5 games, take care of 1 more against the Diamondbacks. I don't think they'll sweep Arizona, but if you can find a way to win 1 of the next 2, going to San Diego, who's maybe been, the Mets and the Padres have probably been the 2 biggest disappointing teams, and a little bit behind them is probably the Cardinals, just because of the amount of money that the Mets and the Padres both spent this year and really have spent over the last 2 seasons. The Cardinals is just terrible. I mean, their big acquisition was Wilson Contreras, and he hasn't done much, but the Cardinals are just pathetic this season. Going to San Diego, find a way to win, 2 or 3 there. You have a 4-2 road trip. You get within 6 games of 500. You come out of the All-Star break. I wouldn't necessarily say your schedule's easy, but I wouldn't say it's very hard. I mean, you've got 3 against the Dodgers right out of the All-Star break, which isn't going to be easy. And then you have 3 against the White Sox, which they stink. So you should be able to take down Chicago. And then they've got Boston, they got the Yankees, and they got the Nationals to round out the month of July. So when you look at the rest of the months, the Mets schedule the rest of the month. Chicago, you got to get a series win there. And the Nationals, I mean, they get 4 games against the Nationals to close out the month at home. I mean, you'd assume you've got to find a way to at least take 3 or 4 there, right? I mean, you have to. So it's interesting. They need to get within, I think, in order for them to probably buy at the trade deadline, they need to get in within probably about 3 games of 500 and probably about 4 games of a wild card. 3.5, 4 games of a wild card for me to think that Steve Cohen will buy at the deadline. This doesn't mean he's going to go all out and say we're going to go and win a championship, but if you're buying at the deadline can mean picking up a couple bullpen arms, not so much just sitting around not doing anything. If they can get within 4 games of a wild card spot, which right now, again, a couple days ago they were 9 out. Right now they're 6.5. You can get within 4 games by the end of this month. It gives them and they're playing good baseball, and they're having a good month, and they're winning series. It at least gives Steve Cohen some initiative to say, hey, let's try and go for it. Let's try and go for a wild card spot. Because at the end of the day, I always say this. Once you're in the dance, everybody always says this, but once you're in the dance, you have a chance. Like, once you're in, everybody has a chance. No matter how you get in, no matter if it's wild card, no matter if you win the division, once you get in, anybody has a chance. The Phillies last year were the great example. They went in. They got the final wild card spot in the National League. And they faced the Cardinals team who many thought probably could make a run to a World Series. They took care of business against the Cardinals, beat the Braves, beat the Padres, and then what? Beat the Braves. Was it right or no? They beat the Braves and they beat the Padres. Yeah. Padres in the NLCS. they got to the World Series. Now, they didn't win the World Series, but nobody saw the Phillies coming out of the National League and winning the pennant. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody really did. And they did. So you never know. Look, I don't think the Mets get there. We'll see if they do, but it's a good start. And Pete Hoffman, who's over at WFAN, he shaved his head the other day. Went bald, shaved his head bald for the Mets. And since that point, they're 3-1. So they're playing decent baseball right now. Again, it's got to continue over a week span. 4 days of good baseball or 3 days of good baseball is not going to cut it. But they've got to do a little more. I mean, if you could find a way to sweep San Diego and go into the All-Star break with a 5-1 record over these 6 games here, I mean, that would be big. But we'll see how it all ends up playing out for the New York Mets. But a good win yesterday for them. Marte had a home run. Alvarez, we'll see if he can kind of unlock and get back going. He had a home run yesterday, 2 RBIs. Scherzer, again, wasn't good. The bullpen gave you a little bit of probably gave some Mets fans the blood pressure increased the blood pressure was probably increasing. That shouldn't have been necessary. You go into the 9th inning with a 4-run lead, you should be able to close it down. Drew Smith struggled, but they still got the job done. And as for the New York Yankees, they still find ways to win. Now, again, we get news that Aaron Judge said that he could be dealing with this injury for the next couple years, which, look, I don't know how much to believe with that. I mean, I guess we'll see how it all ends up playing out. Hopefully he comes back soon, and he's helping this team. But the Yankees are winning, and I'll tell you what, the Yankees right now are firmly in a wild card spot. They're 48-38. They're now 10 games up on 500. They're 8 back in the American League East. They are 2 back right now of the Baltimore Orioles. They are 7-3 in their last 10. The 3 American League wild card teams right now are the Orioles, the Astros, and the Yankees. The Blue Jays are 2 back there on the outside looking in. The Angels, Shohei had blisters yesterday. He might miss little bit of time before the All-Star break. Mike Trout's out 68 weeks with a broken hamate bone, so the Angels seem to falling apart. I could see the Angels probably, and they're 3-7 in their last 10. They've lost 2 straight. I could probably see the Angels taking a step back and starting to really struggle. Then you got Boston and Seattle. They're 5 games back. They're way out of it. It's mainly a 4-team race. It's mainly a 4-team race right now. It's the Yankees, Astros, Orioles are in, and then it's the Blue Jays are the main team on the outside looking in. Unless if the Blue Jays get hot and one of these teams really fall off, most likely this is probably your wild card that you're looking at is the Yankees, Astros, and Baltimore. The Astros are 3 back of Texas, and Texas is 4-6 in their last 10. So, I know they had the crazy game the other day against the Astros. Do the Astros eventually? They're within striking distance. They're 3 games back in the division. But either way, the second place team in the AL West, whether that's the Rangers and the Astros when all's said and done, is going to be in the wild card. And then probably it's going to be the 2 AL East teams. I don't think you're going to get Cleveland or Toronto or some team like that. But we'll see. We'll see. Again, the Yankees are hot right now. They're 7-3 in the last 10, and they've won 2 straight here against Baltimore. But as I mentioned, you win these next 2 games, you tie Baltimore. You win these next 2 games, and you're actually 1 up in Baltimore on the win column and 1 back in the loss column. So you'll be right there. Yankees could get 50 wins before Baltimore does, which is crazy to think that Baltimore went into the series with 49 wins, and the Yankees can come out of it getting 50 wins before them. But that's baseball. So, again, big opportunity here for the Yankees. A very good win yesterday. 2 good wins. You kind of steal the game on Monday with the big Bader 3-run shot in the 8th. You get the job done yesterday, 8-4. They hit Gibson, 6 innings, 4 earned. Glaber with the big home run in the first. Yeah, it's Stanton with the RBI single. Glaber with the heads-up base running. He had a big day, went 2 for 4. So, all in all, a very good day for the Yankees. And Clark Schmidt went out there, and again, Clark Schmidt delivered. 5 innings, 3 runs, 7 Ks. Literally every start for Clark Schmidt, and I'll look at his game log right now because I'm actually very interested in this. You look at Clark Schmidt's starts. They're basically all about 5 innings, and they basically give up 1, 2, or 3 runs. It's basically what it's been the past month. He pitched to a 3.04 ERA in June, and he's pitched so far, obviously, yesterday. Pitched solid against, the Orioles, allowing 3 runs, gave the team a chance. And, again, the Oswaldo, misplay in the outfield or whatever the deal was, or Oswaldo misplay. But other than that, it was a clean day for the Yankees. I went into this series and I said, find a way to take 2. Yankees got that. But now you got to find a way to win this series. You have to. You can't lose these next 2 games. You've got Vasquez on the mound tonight. Brito and Randy Vasquez have been very good in spot start situations throughout this season. So hopefully you can get the job done there. And then tomorrow, you've got Sevy on the mound, who has struggled. So my hope is, if you're the Yankees, win today with Vasquez on the mound. Randy Vasquez has been very good. Go into tomorrow. Hope that Sevy can give you something good. At least just hope. And then, at least take 3 or 4. That's how I see it. So, and then you got the Cubs, who are struggling. They're 39-45. They're 6 games out. They might be sellers at the deadline. Does Bellinger become an option for the Yankees? Who knows? That's all conversations we'll have over this next month. I'm got my eyes on Juan Soto, who might become available at San Diego. Probably is out of the playoffs, or probably won't make the postseason. But although they've had a couple wins the past couple days, I think they've won 2 straight, with a big win last night too against the Angels, where they teed off on Shohei because of the injury. It is his birthday today, however. Shohei's is. So, anyway, back to the point, though, with the Yankees. Take 3 or 4 against Baltimore. Take 2 of 3 against, at least 2 or 3 against Chicago. You look at that as a 5-2 homestand. That's very good. Very good. Very good 5-2 homestand. I take it. So, but I'm getting a little greedy. I would love a sweep. You sweep Baltimore, it's huge. You get the top AL wildcard spot. I mean, that's huge. They're within striking distance of Baltimore here. So, hoping for another win tonight. As I mentioned, Randy Vasquez on the bump for the Yankees. He's 1-1 with a 1.74 ERA through his 2 starts with the Yankees this season. And Dean Kramer's on the mound. He's 8-4 with a 5.04 ERA for the Orioles. As for the Mets look to take the series tonight. Kodai Senga is 6-5 with a 3.53 ERA. He will face off with Tommy Henry, who is 5-1 with a 4.08 ERA. So we'll see how all that plays out tonight. We'll see if the Yankees and the Mets have any fireworks left over from the 2 4th of July wins yesterday, where both teams put up 8 runs. And, a lot of good things to look up forward to tonight. Yankees, O's, and the Mets, D-backs out in Arizona. So, anyway, that'll do it for the podcast here today. As I mentioned, tomorrow I will do my top 5 running backs in the NFL. Friday will be top 5 receivers and tight ends in the NFL as we continue our list here, continue to go through some of the top players in the NFL here over the next, really 2 weeks, over this week and next week, as we get closer and closer into training camp. So that'll do it for the podcast here today. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.